How the heck did you do that? Well, it must be magic. Disney-fied to the max. And we just gone into some kind of Twilight Zone moment here. Hello my darlings, how are you? I hope you, my Fabaret family, had a fantastic new year. If you're new here, hi. Oh, what the heck was that on my ear? No idea, okay. If you're new here, hi, my name is Richard and I love theatre, music, dance, performance, all that kind of stuff. So if that's your Achilles heel as well, then press that subscribe button and join the Fabaret family. Mwah. Now, it might look a bit sad and bare behind there because I've taken all the Christmas decorations down. But there's some good news because I finally got to see Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Yes, after 3 flipping attempts to see this show, I finally saw it. So for those of you who've been watching my channel the last few weeks, you'll know there's been a few attempts to go and see this. So originally I was meant to go and see it near the start of December actually, at Leeds Grand Theatre, and it was their Christmas show they were having there as part of the whole UK tour. And this is what happened the first time I went.
We are not able to resolve the technical fault, and so we'll have to cancel the rest of the performance.
So yeah, unfortunately there was massive tech problems with basically the bed crushing a power cable and they couldn't get it to work again. I don't know why I'm laughing, sorry. So I moved my ticket to another performance a couple of weeks later, fine. And then I was about to go back again and they had to cancel that performance because some of the cast got COVID. But the important thing with stuff like that is that the cast are all okay. And then I rebooked it a third time and I got there and no one was off ill and I saw the full show. Oh, finally. So here we go, darlings. Bedknobs and Broomsticks, based on the 1971 Disney film of the same name. So it started at the Newcastle Theatre Royal back in August 2021, and it's on a UK tour until the end of April this year, so you can still go check it out. So the 1971 film, of course, starred Angela Lansbury and David Tomlinson, and the original music and lyrics were written by Richard Sherman and Robert Sherman, and those tunes are still in this new show. And the new songs and additional music and lyrics have been written by Neil Bartram and the book written by Brian Hill. So let's start at the beginning, which is a very good place to start. If you're not familiar with the story of Bedknobs and Broomsticks, the general plot is that 3 children during wartime are evacuated from the city of London into the countryside for their protection. And they get housed with Mrs. Price, who in the film was played by Angela Lansbury. And Angela turns out to be a witch. Okay, yep, normal. And they go on a flying bed. Yep, okay, normal. And there's a fight at the end with magical armour and Germans. Right, okay. So the first 5 minutes or so is showing the children sort of in the bombs in London and being evacuated into the countryside, and it was so cleverly done. There was an incredible use of sets and props all intertwining between the cast and all the different locations. Every member of the ensemble was using bits of props like clouds or trains or picture frames in these really clever ways. So the way it works with the 3 children is there's Charlie, who's the oldest, and then there's Carrie and Paul, who are the 2 younger children. And Carrie and Paul are alternated by different children, and then the character of Charlie, who's the oldest, is played by a professional adult actor. So the actor playing Charlie is Connor O'Hara, and it was just a bit odd watching because he obviously wasn't like 12, 13 years old as they tried to make it seem. He was obviously so much older than that. And both times I saw it, because I saw the first half twice, it just looked a bit odd with him standing next to the kids and it's like, yeah, we're all really close in age, but actually we're not. But you kind of got to suspend your disbelief with these kind of shows. But Connor O'Hara, who plays Charlie, he does have a slight geeky tone quality in his voice, which actually helps. Now, I've talked about how beautiful the set moving was at the start, but actually throughout the whole production, every time they had to move to a different scene, the transitions of how they moved the set around were beautifully done and choreographed to perfection. It's just that some of the scenes themselves seemed a bit pointless. The running time for this is 2 hours 35 minutes, so actually quite a long show considering who your target audience are, which is young kids. Let's talk about something a bit more positive, the special effects in this show. They are very impressive. So there's a wonderful bit where Eglantine Price, the main character, played by Diane Pilkington, she transforms the character of Charlie into a rabbit, and it was very clever the way they did it with the ensemble coming in, acting as like the bits of light from the spell. And they sort of helped to cover everything up as secret things were happening behind the scenes. But the standout moment for me in terms of visual effects was the broomstick scene. So there's a moment where Eglantine Price, who's training to be a witch, gets her first broomstick in the post and she's trying to learn how to use it. And she makes a few mistakes like tumbling over and, falling off and the broom goes flying everywhere. And there were some points where I could just genuinely not work out, how did they do that? I mean, the thing is, part of me wants to suspend my disbelief, but also part of my theatre critical eye thinking, okay, I'm trying to figure out how you're doing this. And I could tell there were some moments where they were using black screen behind them, and there were some bits where they obviously replaced different brooms, maybe some of the brooms had magnets in them, things like that. But there were some points where I thought, oh, for her to be flying on the broom like that, it's got to be all supported by a lever or something behind the stage. But then they had moments where she was sort of flying through window frames and clouds, and people were going up and down and behind her, and I was like, there's no way you could have that support like that. So I have to admit, there were some bits that really got me thinking, how the heck did you do that? Well, it must be magic. So when I went to see it the first time round, we got to the point where the character of Amelius Brown is brought out, played by Charles Brunton, and I could tell the second time round when I saw it why they had to stop the show, because there was lots of tech things going on with fire and little explosions, which none of that happened the first time I saw it. Now, as well as the broomstick moving around and jumping up and down, the movement of the bed was just as impressive, and again, there were some points where I just could not figure out how they were doing this. I mean, what they clearly done is they purposely put elements of set in particular places to try and trick you or make you second guess from a technical point of view what was going on. I mean, I'm sorry, what am I talking about? Of course it was magic, of course it was. So the points where the bed was all lit up in the dark and in the shadows was really incredible. Now, I don't know how to address this is a bit awkward, but so Portobello Road, right? It's one of the big ensemble numbers in the film. You can have loads of people on stage. It's kind of like in Oliver with Consider Yourself or It's a Fine Life. You can have masses of people on the street all chanting, having a good time. And I just didn't feel that it had the energy that it deserved. I mean, the cast that were there gave it their all, but maybe there was some cast that couldn't be on because of COVID. But to be honest, there wasn't a huge number of ensemble in the show anyway, so I think they had pretty much everyone there. They just had so much space on stage that they could have used more during that number. And Portobello Road for me is one of my favourite songs from the film, and I was just left a bit like, eh. But on a lighter note, the other big song from Bedknobs and Broomsticks, The Age of Not Believing, was done so simplistic and beautiful, and I'm really grateful they did it that way. They didn't try to add in any big orchestration or anything. They kept it simple, delicate and fragile, because it is a delicate song about losing your childhood and losing your innocence. So they did that just right. They had Eglantine and Charlie at the front of the stage with Carrie and Paul, the two kids, on the bed at the back. And this was just before the bed's about to fly off for the first time and Charlie doesn't believe it's real. And they did it just right. Low, dim lighting, very simplistic, and it was so moving. Now initially, if someone had said to me that, oh, the bit where they travel to the island with all the animals is actually going to be where the interval comes in, I was like, that's a really odd place to stop it because you're right in the middle of a journey. But actually, when you think about it, from a crew point of view, they need that because I figured what would happen is they had to transform basically the entire set, which is what they had to do because they're going to a brand new island with animals and fish and all these crazy things going on. And by this point, by the end of the first half, the idea of them using lots of set and moving and intertwining in everything, it had died down a little bit, which was a shame for me, I felt. There was still some aspects of it in the second act, but what the second act brought us was much more colour. Because in the first half, you've got very much, this is London, wartime, everyone's kind of in greys and browns, and then we get to the island of No Peepo, which is kind of Disney-fied to the max. And of course, in the film, this is the beautiful bit where there's lots of interaction of animation and live action in the same way that was done with Mary Poppins. So there was much more colour in that whole No Peepo section, and that made it so much more enjoyable for me. It felt like I was watching a Bright Lights musical at that point. The puppetry used for the fish and the land animals and the lion, I was about to say Lion King there, not Lion King, the king who just happens to be a lion. The puppetry was incredible, and the key thing with puppetry is you kind of lose focus of the people who are operating the puppet and you just see the puppet come to life in your head. And they did that with every single puppet in that No Peepo section, so bravo, got to give them credit for that, well done. Okay, one thing we need to talk about, which I am still a bit dumbfounded by, is the ending of this. This ending was just so bizarre. So the plot, after when the kids find out that Eglantine is a witch, is the kids help her to find these magical words in order to help inanimate objects come to life. And the idea was that she wants to use this as a spell to help in the war. And she makes these suits of armour come to life and these swords come and attack all the invading soldiers that are coming into their town. And again, the effects and all this, so cleverly done. There were some points where I just didn't know what was going on or how it was happening. But then as we kind of got to the end of it all, suddenly Charlie, the older brother, just shouts out, "It's not real!" And I was like, I'm sorry, what is going on here? What? And it turns out everything that has happened in this version of the show, with all the magic in the beds and the flying and the witches and everything, it's all been in Charlie's imagination. Oh, kill me now. I really hate musicals or anything TV shows or films where they just kind of say, and Bob woke up, it was all a dream. Because for me, in situations like that, I feel a bit cheated because you've taken me on this magical adventure. You've persuaded me to believe in everything. There's even a song called The Age of Not Believing, trying to say, look, it doesn't matter if you're old or not, believe in this magic. And then you kind of just taking it all away. Now in the film version, this isn't what happens. In the film version, everything really happens. All the magic takes place, and at the end, the Brits have won their little bit of the war. Hooray, okay. But suddenly in this version, Charlie shouts out, it's all a dream and it's all in his imagination. And it seems that even Eglantine Price and Emilius Brown are kind of aware that they don't really exist and they're in his imagination. And I was like, okay, I'm sorry, what? Have we just gone into some kind of Twilight Zone moment here? For me, and I hate saying this, it was just a really odd ending and I didn't like it. I guess from one point of view, you have to think, well, they want to try and get everything in from the film and they want to squish as much story in as possible, but they've also got to try and wrap everything up quickly, otherwise it's going to be like a 4-hour extravaganza. But at the same time, I just felt a bit cheated. Anyway, overall, I am glad I went to see this because, to be honest, the visual effects alone are definitely worth it, and it was beautiful to see. The ending kind of ruined it a little bit for me, but it was a fun-filled show. I can't deny that. Is it going to make my top 5 shows of all time? No. To be honest, before I even went to see it, I was like, it's probably not going to happen that way anyway, considering how many shows I've seen. But you know, I'm glad I've seen it, and especially it just got to the point where I was just determined to see this show because it felt like the world was against me going to see it. And I was like, I am going to go see Bedknobs and Broomsticks. Well, that's it from me this week, my lovelies. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back next Thursday with another Fabaret vlog. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and be part of the Fabaret family. And I will see you next week. Bye!